Okay, I think it's good to get started. Jamie, if I could go back to looking at people, that would be great. Excellent. So welcome, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the webinar on the Pivot Grant Program, Fairfax County's newest support for businesses in Fairfax County. My name is Wendy Lemieux. I am the marketing coordinator for the Department of Economic Initiatives in Fairfax County, who also brought you RISE, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. Today, we will spend about a half an hour talking to you about the Pivot program. We'll give you some details on the background on how to apply, what the eligibility is, and some of the nuances that are a little bit different than the RISE program. Then following that, we will take questions. You might have heard me earlier. If you have a question, we will put them in the Q&A, and we will pull questions from there at the end. As an aside, I'd also like to say that on Thursday afternoon, we will do this presentation again in Spanish. So if you're familiar with people who have English as not their first language, or if you would just like to listen again in Spanish, come on over Thursday and we will do this again. So let me get started. I'd like to introduce our presenter today, who is Jamie Gaucher. Jamie is the Director of Innovation for the Department of Economic Initiatives. And he will walk you through today's presentation. Jamie, all you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Wendy. And thank you to everybody who's joining us today. I really appreciate you taking the time to learn about this program. And if you weren't already aware, we are recording this, and a copy of this will be posted online subsequent to today. So you don't have to rapidly scribble down everything that I'm about to tell you. This presentation and the conversation that we're going to have will be available for reference. So I'm going to walk through the program, and hopefully this will guide potential applicants toward what to expect. And if you're here to learn about the program in anticipation of potentially helping people apply, it should be informational for you as well. If you were not already aware, the Pivot program is focused on 4 primary sectors of our economy, and those are food services, lodging, retail, services and amusements, as well as arts organizations, museums, and historical sites. I'm going to walk through eligibility for each one of those sectors. There are going to be specific pieces of information around dates and the process. And then again, we're very interested in having this be conversational. So if you do have questions or if you have specific comments, please don't hesitate to share them in the chat, and we will do everything we can to address them at the end. From a general perspective, it's important to note the grant program will start accepting applications a week from tomorrow. That's June 23rd at 9 a.m. We expect the program to be oversubscribed, and consequently, every applicant who is not in the hotel or lodging vertical or sector will be entered into a lottery. So that's also important to know. If you are a business that is temporarily closed, you certainly still may apply to the program, and if you meet all the other requirements. But we're asking that you are planning to reopen by the end of August later this year. And the other takeaway that I want to focus on here is if you are a sole proprietor, you certainly are invited to apply under the Pivot program that best fits your needs. But we are interested in serving sole proprietors that have a commercial storefront. And we're going to ask you to demonstrate such storefront with a lease or a lease equivalent, and that at least 51% of your annual income as a sole proprietor is derived from this applicant business. That's an important distinction for us. Some of the criteria, and what you'll see here on this slide applies across the board without regard to independent verticals or independent sectors of the economy. You must be located in Fairfax County, and if you happen to be in Clifton or Herndon or Vienna, you certainly can apply. If you happen to be in the city of Fairfax or the city of Falls Church, however, you will not be eligible. We also, as per the federal regulations, need you to certify as an applicant that you have 500 or fewer employees. If you are a company in one of these sectors and you have more than 500 employees, you will not be eligible for an award. We're asking that you must have been in business and revenue generating prior to March 1st, 2020. And we're asking each applicant business to demonstrate a minimum of a 15% decrease in revenue connected specifically to the COVID-19 pandemic. And we'll break that down sector by sector. We also have a list of the documents that you can expect to submit to this process later in this presentation. If you are closed or out of business, the pivot program will not be able to address your needs. If you are an e-commerce business or primarily online, or if you do not have a commercial storefront, if you're a home-based business, likewise, the pivot program will not be able to address your needs. This is a chart that breaks out the program by sector. So if you qualify under the food services part of pivot, we're asking each successful applicant to demonstrate that they have less than $3.5 million in annual receipts or gross revenue. And that's per establishment. That's also an important takeaway here. And consequently, we are preparing $18,000 grants, again, per establishment. If you happen to be an independent food truck and you can meet the requirements of the program, the grant will be $1,500. From a lodging or hotel perspective, we're asking that you have a minimum of 10 rooms, and the grant will be calculated based on the number of rooms in the property. We are going to offer grants at $400 per room. If you happen to be in the retail services and amusements category, again, we're going to request that you're able to demonstrate annual receipts or gross revenue under $3.5 million per establishment. And those grants will be worth $12,000 each. In the category of arts organizations, museums, and historical sites, based on the review of data that we've conducted, there are a number of arts organizations with rather large, robust budgets in excess or equal to $100,000. And if you happen to be a representative of one of those organizations, the grant will be $10,000. If you are a smaller arts organization, perhaps you're a nonprofit arts organization, and your annual budget or your annual receipts are under $100,000, that grant will be worth $5,000. If you are a museum or historical site in the county, that grant will be worth $10,000. So let's get into some of the specifics. We're going to focus first off on food services. In order to be, as I just said, in order to be eligible, we're going to ask that you're able to demonstrate gross revenue under 3.5 million. We're going to ask that you're able to demonstrate a physical location, a commercial storefront. And we're also going to ask for a copy of your Fairfax County Health Department food establishment permit. That's important to know. If you're a food truck and you're going to move through this process, it's important to us that you are an independently owned and operated food truck. If you happen to be responsible for a food truck that is part of an existing restaurant, the restaurant certainly can apply, but the food truck entity will not be eligible. Food trucks must operate from a commissary here in Fairfax County. And if you own or operate a food truck, you're very familiar, I'm sure, with the idea of your commissary location being in Fairfax County. Additionally, it's important to note that if you have received a notice of award from the SBA's Restaurant Revitalization Fund program, you will not be eligible for this. And I just saw it in the news yesterday that those awards in that program have been halted. There are some legal issues surrounding that program. But the average award thus far from the SBA has been in the neighborhood of $125,000. So based on our limited budget and our desire to reach as many small businesses and entrepreneurs as possible, if you have received a notice of award from the SBA for your restaurant under that program, you will not be eligible for Pivot. This is also not a program for you if you happen to be a food manufacturer. And again, we are focused on providing assistance to independent food trucks. If you happen to be in the lodging industry, the lodging economic sector, we're asking that you have a minimum of 10 rooms. If you have less than 10 rooms available to the public, you will not be eligible. And additionally, if you've participated in the county's emergency shelter program, if you happen to be representing a property that is participated in this program, those hotels will not be eligible either. The average amount of money that those hotels have received is something north of $1.5 million. And again, given our limited budget and our desire to reach as many people as possible, if you are a participant in that program, you will not be eligible here. And likewise, if you happen to run a short-term rental, like an Airbnb or a VRBO, you will not be eligible for Pivot. The largest sector or group from our perspective for this program is retail services and amusements. The qualifications are very similar. We're going to use the $3.5 million annual receipts level per establishment. And we're also going to ask that you have and are able to demonstrate a commercial storefront. If you are not in Fairfax County, as I stated before, you will not be eligible. If you are in the city of Fairfax or the city of Falls Church, you will not be eligible. If you are permanently closed, a home-based business, or e-commerce only, you likewise will not be eligible for Pivot. This is what I believe to be the most interesting economic sector of our economy, and it's potentially the most interesting part of this grant program. We're focused on art-based organizations, we're focused on museums, and we're focused on historical sites. And we've put a lot of effort into bringing definition to what that really means. So the definition here that we are using for-profit and nonprofit arts organizations are establishments that are involved in producing, promoting, or participating in live performances, events, or exhibits intended for public viewing. Those categories might include music, dance, theater, visual arts, media arts, or literary arts. Additionally, in an attempt to bring clarity to what is a museum or historical site, Pivot grants will support nonprofit establishments that are revenue generating venues, preserve or exhibit objects and sites of historical, cultural, or educational interest, and are open regularly for public viewing and or public programming. This includes art-based museums and museums that are non-arts based. If you happen to be a nonprofit in this category, we're going to ask that you share with us your IRS letter of determination, and again, that you are a bricks and mortar. The equivalent of a bricks and mortar, the equivalent of a commercial storefront. And in much the same way that we are excluding restaurants that have participated in the SBA's restaurant program, we are also going to exclude any organizations that have received funding or have received a notice of award from the SBA's Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. Those grants have a limit. I think they go up to $10 million, and I think they offer up to 45% of lost revenue. And again, if you have received a notice of award from the SBA with regard to that, you will not be eligible for a pivot grant. Some of the documents that we will be asking you to submit include the list that's here. We're looking for Fairfax County businesses that are in good standing, that have a BPOL license. We'll be looking for tax returns to confirm your federal EIN. We'll be looking for, as I've already mentioned, commercial lease or lease equivalent, or we actually have developed with our partners a document that we refer to as a landlord affidavit that we will accept as evidence of your commercial storefront. As I mentioned, if you are a nonprofit, we'll be looking for that IRS letter. And we're also asking, and this is a specific requirement that came to us from the federal legislation, a specific requirement for receipts and invoices that comprise 100% of the eligible reimbursable costs that equal the grant amount. And those costs must have been incurred on or after March 3rd, 2021 to be eligible for grant funding. That's an important piece of information. Again, if you're expecting to be an applicant for this program, or if you're going to help others prepare applications. Use of funds. Again, the purpose of this program is to assist existing businesses. So we are quite liberal with our list of approved uses. Those uses include working capital, equipment, rent, debt payments, inventory, employee compensation, and other business critical operating expenses. Additionally, any implementation of COVID-19 prevention or mitigation that you've had to do as a small business here in the county would be an eligible use. Monies from the pivot program will not be available to assist you to close a business or to start a new business. And again, down here at the bottom of this slide, I want to reiterate, potential grants will reimburse businesses for eligible costs incurred on or after March 3rd, 2021. And that, quite frankly, as I mentioned earlier, is a federal regulation. So how to apply? Again, a week from tomorrow, 9 a.m., the portal will go live, and a link here, this address, will take you to the Department of Economic Initiatives site, at which you will be able to access the portal. There is no advantage to filling out an application and submitting it early. So there is no rush. The portal will be open from our perspective, what is a longer time frame than usual, but we want to make sure that we're able to address as many potential applicants as possible. So the portal will be open until midnight on July 9th. Once the portal opens and once you're able to start navigating the application process, we will be, the process is broken down into 3 distinct phases. Phase 1 is an initial eligibility check. Phase 2 will consist of the submission of some of the required documents that we're going to ask for you. Those documents will be verified. And if you happen to be an applicant that is participating in the lottery, once the lottery happens, and all your documentation has been verified, you will be asked to submit eligible expense invoices. Before we get to frequently asked questions, I want to go back and I want to mention that Fairfax County is working very closely with the Latino Economic Development Center. They are our partner on this program. They are actually the people that have helped develop the portal. They will be processing applications. They will be requiring the documentation, verifying it, and reviewing and approving any eligible expenses as well. They will also be providing technical assistance. So during your experience, if you run into an issue or if you're in need of a specific document that you cannot find, the folks at LEDC will be there to help you either with on the phone or via email or via text messaging to sort of steer you in the right direction and give you all the support you need. Now, again, we're interested in having this be as interactive as possible, but in the short time that we've been talking to folks across the county about the Pivot program, we've developed some frequently asked questions. So I'm going to very quickly run through these questions. And if you have any additional questions, please put them in the chat and Wendy will share them with us as soon as we're done here. So the first question that we started to receive is, can I apply if I received other assistance like a RISE grant, a PPP loan, or state or federal grants? And the answer is yes, you are not precluded, except as noted in the very next question, if you have received a notice of award from the SBA Restaurant Revitalization Fund or the Shuttered Venue Operator Grant, then you would not be eligible. The only other point that I want to make with regard to the ability to receive a Pivot grant, you will not, like any federal grant monies, you would not be able to use Pivot grants for costs that were already associated with other federal assistance programs. You would not, in effect, be able to do what is commonly referred to as double dipping, right? If my business type is not on the eligible business checklist, can I still apply? We've developed an eligible business checklist as a quick reference guide. And this question really has 2 parts. So the first part, which is not clearly stated here, is if you are not in one of the aforementioned economic sectors, one of the 4 verticals, you will not be eligible for this program. The eligible business checklist is not the law of the land. It is just a guide. So not seeing your business on the checklist does not mean you cannot apply. You are welcome to apply, even if your type of business is not there. As I just mentioned, if I apply early in the open application period, will I receive early review? No, you will not. There are no advantages to early application. Are businesses located in town or city jurisdictions able to participate? We've covered this. Yes, they are, unless they're in the city of Fairfax or the city of Falls Church. Another question that we've received early on is will there be a separate grant opportunity for other nonprofit and community-based organizations? And we are hoping that there will be. We're actually developing a program right now for nonprofit groups and community-based organizations, but the details are not finalized at this time. We're working very closely with another set of peers, colleagues within Fairfax County to put together the pieces of a program to address those specific parts of our economy. And as that comes into focus, I'm sure you'll be able to receive updates and gain some clarity around timing and grant amounts, et cetera. We're just not quite there yet. How may grant funds be used? Again, we've covered this, and I'm happy to say we are allowing use of funds to include working capital, equipment, rent, debt payments, inventory, employee compensation, including the draw of an owner if need be, and other business critical operating expenses. Additionally, implementation of COVID-19 prevention and mitigation tactics is allowable. And the last question that we have here before we open it up to the group is the information available in languages other than English? And yes, as Wendy noted in the open, we are going to have a Spanish version of this deck, of this presentation. That's going to happen on Thursday. And additionally, we are translating the marketing materials and some of this information into not only Spanish, but Vietnamese, Arabic, and Korean. So that's all I have at the moment. I would, at this point, turn it back over to Wendy, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that we might have. Wendy?
Let's unmute. Excellent. Touching base one more time on the other grant program that's under development. The program is going to offer grants for nonprofit organizations, childcare providers, and community recreation and athletic organizations. So if you are one of those organizations and have asked that question in the chat, that is your answer. It will be publicized later this summer, and you should hear more about it. The other thing is that we probably have seen on our website, if you would like to stay in the know, we have a listserv that we are asking people to sign up for, and that's how we will communicate with you new information. So if you go to the Pivot Grant website, which is I put in the chat, then you'll be able to sign up there. So let's go ahead and we'll get started. We have about 35 questions. I'm not sure we're going to get through all of them, but we will take a shot at it and do a little bit of a speed round. Jamie, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, excellent.
Fire away.
All right. We're a nonprofit organization that had to go virtual. We're online only. Does that disqualify us? Ordinarily we'd sing in person, but we can't do that.
If you have been online only and you do not have a physical storefront or a lease or the equivalent of a commercial location, you would not be eligible for Pivot. If you had one previously but had to shut it down over the last year, then potentially you would be.
The pandemic's still here. Will a loss in 21 be included in the 15% loss? Can you reiterate the rules there?
It will not. We are going to look at revenue from 2020 compared to revenue from 2019. And in the case of a business that may not have a full 12-month operating revenue, we are going to make some allowances for a business as in case, you know, maybe they were only open for 6 months. We will take an annualized number to determine whether or not you qualify via the 15%.
I'm a sole proprietor, but I have 3 locations in Fairfax County. Does it count as 1 or 3?
Counts as 3 if each one of the locations is independently operated. I would need evidence of 3 leases as an example.
So would a co-working space fall under retail and amusements? They offer standard business services. If we're not sure, they can send that question to us.
I will have to check my data to see. We relied heavily on NAICS codes to make sure that we were as inclusive as possible. And I'm not sure if co-working spaces fit on, if they would fit in this program, they would fit under the retail and services vertical. I'm not sure if they do. And I'd be happy to research it and get back to you as soon as possible.
So Kate, if you would send that to Fairfax Pivot at LEDC.com, they will be able to answer that question for you. Let's see. Is hair salon a service sector?
It's not a sector, but it is an eligible business. Yes, that would be characterized under the retail services and amusements part of the Pivot program.
Okay. And dental, what would a dental office be considered?
Likewise, they would be in the retail services and amusement section of the program.
George Mason is on the line. Ryan's here asking if they're saying they would be interested in applying. Would they be eligible? I guess the question is, where do they fall?
Yeah, I would need additional information around what part of George Mason University, noting that, you know, they are a very diverse organization. There are a lot of pieces. If there's a section, if you will, or a part of George Mason that would fit one of the verticals, we would have to sit down and do a deeper examination. I can't answer that question right off the top of my head.
Okay. And I'll say again, if we don't get to your question specifically, there is an email address you can ask your very specific. Some of these are a little nuanced, and I think they're going to require some research. Someone's saying they're a little they have a question about the term services. If you're a PR, marketing, and special events firm that hosts awards, they have an office, would they qualify?
I don't think they would qualify. We are really focused on businesses that provide services to individual members of the public. Businesses that provide services to other businesses did not seem to, the majority of the time, fit the definition that we have.
Okay. And this one, I think we'll go to our next grant program, but if you're a nonprofit with housing and support services to those with disabilities, would you qualify under this program?
No, you would not. That would most likely, to your point, Wendy, that would be covered by our friends at NCS.
So if you have applied for the shuttered venue grant, but you haven't heard back yet, and you're not sure if you're going to get it, are you eligible to apply?
You are eligible to apply for a Pivot. We're going to ask, basically we have, as part of our process, you are eligible if you have received a notice of award, however, from the SBA relative to that program, then you would not be eligible. But up until that point, you would be eligible for a Pivot.
The company services repair hot tubs, saunas, etc. They can't work in the store, but they go to each place where the equipment is. It's a service company, but no brick and mortar.
Without brick and mortar, I don't think you would be eligible for a Pivot.
Let's keep looking. Bear with me 1 second. Will the portal allow you to complete part of the application and get back to it later?
It will. It's been designed specifically to have each applicant in effect create an account. And so you can save, leave, return, save, go find a document, come back. That functionality is built into the Pivot portal.
Is there a minimum number of employees? Specifically, if you're 100% volunteer, do you qualify?
We do not have a minimum number of employees. If you are a volunteer-only organization, You might be a nonprofit entity, and if you are a nonprofit entity, you might be focused on the arts organizations, museums, and historical sites. And just the fact that you are volunteer only would not preclude you from submitting an application.
One of the people ask about is there links to check document requirements. The answer is all of the information that we are talking about is online at fairfaxcounty.gov, search pivot. The checklist, I put a link in the chat, and we will continue to update all of that information on a regular basis. And very shortly, our partners at LEDC are putting together a how-to document that we will link, and we expect that you will see that early next week. On the website, it says you must make 51% of your income through the business. I think that, so Casey, I think this is a little nuanced. I'm going to ask you to go ahead and email that directly to LEDC. The 3 phases, besides phase 1 and phase 2, do we upload at the time of phase 1, or is it the same thing, or do we do that in phase 3?
So you will be asked to upload documentation like tax returns and or a copy of your Fairfax County Health Department certification if you're in the food services industry. That sort of documentation will be part of phase 2. Phase 3 will consist of uploading evidence of receipts and or invoices totaling the level of the amount of the grant that you're requesting. So there will be uploads in phase 2 and in phase 3, 2 different subject matters, 2 different areas of verification.
Cindy Hoffman asks, is there going to be a separate lottery for each category?
There will not be. Everyone that is an applicant in the arts organizations, museums and historical sites, food services, and the retail services and amusements will all be entered into a lottery together. The only group that is excluded from a lottery is hotels.
Let's see. Where do swimming pools fall?
I don't know. That's what sort, is it a business that constructs swimming pools? Is it a business that maintains swimming pools? It is a business that sells swimming pools. I would need some more information about what the business does and how it's connected to swimming pools to make that determination.
Okay, so we do have some more questions. A lot of these are pretty nuanced for us, so we're not going to get into too many specifics in all of this. And so I'm going to, the last question is there going to be a recording available? And I will tell you that we reached capacity today on this event. So there were people who were not able to join us. So this is recorded. We will be posting this information online so that everyone will be able to see it. And at this point, it is possible that we will have another English only event early next week. So stay tuned. If you have someone who is not eligible or were not able to join us, then we will take those questions then. And again, if you have other specific questions that didn't get addressed today, the address was published in the chat, and please go ahead and email your questions there. So we'll stop it. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, LEDC, for hosting us, and we will see all of you very soon. Have a great day.
Thank you.